There are many things that define us as South Africans, including our diverse cultures, our languages, but one thing that binds us is the love of meat. Nothing says proudly South African than a braai, a chisanyama. A very warm welcome to this year's third installation of the E-Lounge. I'm sure many of you have heard about the Busy Corner, especially if you live in Gauteng. If not, please do yourself a favor and Google. Well, our guest today is none other than Miss Rita Zwane, MaZwane, the founder of Imbizo Shisanyama, to share insights on a book titled Conquering the Poverty of the Mind. MaZwane is a trailblazing entrepreneur, a recipient of a number of awards, including the National Small Business Champion Award, the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry Businesswoman of the Year in 2016, the Gautrain Premier Service Excellence Award, and a nominee of an International Golden European Award for Quality and Business Prestige. Conquering the Poverty of the Mind is her first book. It is an account of a teenage mother's journey from KwaZulu-Natal to the City of Gold to explore financial freedom. And that she achieved, as she is currently one of the R1 million township economy business owners. You can expect an inspiring story of resilience, excellence, and lots of life lessons that you can apply in your own life. Insights and inspiration stimulate great conversation. The E-Lounge is one of our knowledge share platforms anchored on our values of learning and leadership. We do hope that you will tune in, engage, and take away the knowledge from the sizzling conversation. And remember, those who desire to lead should read. Thank you.
Okay. As the famed star Bonginkosi Dlamini, formerly known as Zola 7, sings, "If you call me a star, maybe you're living in the dark, or maybe you're scared. I can shine, maybe I can shine for you." And he then continues to sing. He says, "I'm going to shine in the dark like the stars of Subsub. I'm going to sing all day in Njengenyani Zulu." My guest today has done exactly that. She has shown us clearly that there is life beyond living elocution. There is life in creating business elocution. My guest today, I don't even know how to introduce her. I will just simply call her a perpetual disruptor, an entrepreneur extraordinaire, a woman of great heart, a woman who has shown us that, beyond the tin shacks and the misunderstanding of the dust that swells up in the location when we grew up, there is life beyond that. She has become an entrepreneur of note, a businesswoman who speaks all over the world. She's a motivator. She's a person who you speak to and you feel, I wish there was more of people like this. My guest today, Usis Rita Zwane. In my language, they say, Lina lebeso rumo. You give a child an interesting name, it will send them on their path. Formerly named by her parents, Upumlapi. In Zulu, or loosely translated, the one who never rests. Welcome.
Ngiyabonga. Thanks for having me.
Now, who is Phumlapi Rita Zwane?
Phumlapi Rita, now in Gauteng, known as MaZwane.
Yes.
Comes from KZN. We have got brothers and one sister, but three of them passed on. We now 4 of us that are left. Raised by a single mother, went to school up to matric, came to Johannesburg, of course, like everyone else, looking for greener pastures, worked in different areas, and at some point, went and did secretarial courses those years. If you're looking for work, you only have matric, but you must just top it up with something else, you know. and I decided to go and do certain courses, which was just 6 months course at a time. That's what opened doors for me to even get into corporate world. But I am a girl from KZN.
Now, MaZwane, as they know her now today, the star that she is, there is a key, I want to talk to you about the value of a promise.
Yes.
A promise made in a very interesting place called Engoje. By a man who you were not lucky enough to meet at that point in time. Let's go back there. Let's go back to Engoje. Let's start Engoje.
Yes. Engoje is where my parents, both of them, were born and grew up. With my father going to the city, doing the same what I did, to look for greener pastures and see how my father can support the family. And Engoje is typical village place, rural areas. You find that within, you see the mountains, and maybe over the mountains there's 1 or 2 houses. That's Engoje, but it's my roots. Because, right now we are here in Gautrain and people come from different parts of the world. Even though I was born in KZN, in Umlazi, but where my parents come from, it's that part of KZN in Vryheid.
The compelling reason that got your father to move to a Durban, I still want to go back to that compelling reason, because it has driven everything right up until to us sitting together, sitting here.
Yeah, Upabwa was a headman. From what my mother told me, like you said, I didn't even get a chance to see him or him to know me. He was a headman, but my mom tells me that Ubabam was more like when she looks at things that he was saying, more of a visionary.
Yes.
He knew exactly where he wants to see his family, where he wanted to see the family in the near future. He also knew how he wanted to raise his children. So in rural areas, he could see that they were not going to get the kind of education that he would have loved for them. And he definitely did not want his children to be like him at a time, because you can understand headmen in rural areas, there is no school. Maybe even if there is a school, it's just only primary, because they could not, with the previous government, it's not like they would go up to high school. So what was compelling him is a better life for his family. And that's what made him to leave everything behind in Engoje and decide to go to the rural areas. I mean, to KZN in Umlazi, in the city. He was actually, my father was not even a city person, but he knew that the opportunities you would get them when you go to the city. So this was a compelling reason for him.
As he ordered the accolade, a few years later, you make a similar trip. Compelled by the same commitment, a better life for somebody.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Let's start before we get there. What happens for you to end up in that space?
Yeah. I found myself having a son at 20 years of age. And I quickly realized that I am a single mother now. And I had just finished matric. And how I got a single mother, it's a different story that I'm not going to tell today. With only matric, and here is a baby that needs to be fed, that must grow. But the same reason, like what my father had, for us to leave rural areas and then go to the city. Nami, I felt that, my mom who raised me as a domestic worker, all I have is matric now. Here is a child. How am I going to raise this child? But I would love this child to have a better life now that I'm a single parent. And I had to leave KZN, come to Johannesburg, looking for a better life, to be able to look after my son and to be able to get a better education for him not to end up in matric. My mom had to make sure that as a domestic worker, her children, it was just me and my sister, she didn't want us to be domestic workers as well. So at least she tried raising 7 children, to make sure that they go to school. When I went up to matric, I did not want my children to also go up to matric. At least let me do something so that they become better than me.
It's an incredible thought, and throughout going through the book, I'm not only touched, but I'm warmed at how much you were, first your father was so ahead of time in terms of thinking. I mean, I having started off my career in Durban and working with the very strong Zulu men who worked in the gangs that worked in the railways then, your father was ahead of time. And as you say, a visionary. What would have been the compelling environmental setup that would have pushed him that much? Or the thinking, the context in itself, when he looked at it and said, but this is not going to be the place where I can do this. I mean, I love Northern KwaZulu-Natal. In today's terms, it's a nice place, but in those days, there was something compelling on him.
Yeah. Well, with him, like we're saying, he was a visionary. Yeah. Compelling for him, he just didn't want his children. He wanted when he raised his children and wanted them, I think when I'm saying for a better life for the kids and to become something one day and to be able to have a freedom to choose of who they want to become. And looking at the farm where he was, clearly, there was nothing there for his children. And in a sense, that means I'm the 6th one at home, though we are 7, there's my half-brother as well. So the 3 of my brothers, the first 3, they were also working at the farm as well. So for him to sit there and make that decision, which was not an easy decision, because apartheid laws at that time, even for women, it's not like they would go to school. And, when you have the children, they must also follow you and also go to work at the farm and be headmen or clean the houses, which is what my mother did when she was at the city. So there is nothing for me that's either than seeing that this visionary man, all he wanted, to be honest, is for the children to have a good life.
Now, you travel from KZN. Only train ticket in hand and your clothes.
Yes.
I couldn't, I've traveled on, as a railwayman, I've traveled on those trains up and down. At the age of 20, you have nothing else except the promise of a job.
Yes. Was it scary? It was very scary. And it's even more when you're telling neighbors that you're going to Gautrain and they say, we are okay. We are holy. And some trying to make your mother understand that, do you know where you're letting your child to go to? It's Johannesburg. Do you think she will survive? She will come back? And all my mother said, in fact, even though I had a train ticket, but I had something else that my mom gave me.
What is that?
Yes.
Yes.
These were words of wisdom. She says to me, look, Pumlap, you are no longer a child. You have a child now. You're going to Joburg. I'm not going to see what you would be doing in Joburg. I'm taking your word, like she did with my father. I'm taking your word that you want a better life for your child. Now, in retrospect, when I think about it, I think my mom was saying, gosh, I'm taking another chance with this second girl, where when my husband left KZN, I mean, KK left the rural areas, the farm, going to the city. The end of my father's story, you can understand in her, now thinking about it, in her mind, she was praying to say, it must not end the same way for my daughter. I don't think she was going to be able to live or accept that, But she then said to me, the only thing that I want you to know, when you get there to Joburg, because I won't be able to see you, but there is one man that will see all the move that you will be doing. And you need also to rely on that man. And I was looking at my mom, which man? And he says, the man above. She said, God will be watching every move you do, but at the same time, do not forget to pray. That's when I continue to say, God gives you the desires of your heart. Because from my mother telling me that, I just did not stop praying for everything that I wanted in life. And gosh, 70% of what I have been praying for, I honestly got it.
That in-depth prayer, a lot of people now lately with the challenges of everything that's going on around us, this COVID, there's loss of lives and everything else. And people are questioning whether, should we still be praying? But yes. Let's go back to MaZwane's story. And to me, that's much more important to me. Now, you come to Joburg and you start working in the most interesting place in the world.
Yes.
And then one day somebody promises you a job. Let's tell that story a little bit. First, when you were working and how you get to be able to speak to this gentleman.
Maybe the story will answer the question that you've just asked.
Yes.
Should we still be praying? Yes. With that one, again, I look at it today with child trafficking and everything that is happening. And I say to myself, you know what? Thank you, Lord, for your wisdom. Let me be grateful, because I don't know what would have happened to me. And what my mother was scared of, what happened with my father, and maybe it could have been the same thing somehow. And, that's a very interesting story, because I was still too naive at the time. It was not even a year being in Johannesburg, and you promised a job, a good job, After waitressing, of course.
Yes.
And only lasted for 3 days. Yeah. With that one, it always talks to me about your sixth senses, your intuition, your gut feel. Because as much as I was excited about being promised that, but there I was, standing, just about, to walk and get into that car. And something just said to me, stop. How are you going to, how come that, this particular person who's promising you work, but is coming, late in the afternoon instead of the morning? If he leaves you wherever, how are you going to fetch a taxi back? Things like those. I'm trying not to get too much into the book, because I do want people to buy the book, to just pick there,
yes.
But that experience, it just says to me, when there is that gut feel, something that says, maybe don't do that, listen to it, because I listened to that, and that helped me.
But it's also the same gut feel that has driven you all the way this far.
But then again, talking about the gut feel, because exactly, that same gut feel that says don't, and you say, you know what, despite my gut feel, I take a chance. Yeah. Either you blame yourself later that I shouldn't. So if we say it's the same gut feel that has driven me for all this time, you're quite correct. Because this time, this gut feel younger from Futhi, you're not even talking about containers. Let's leave that. Let's just go back when one was in Joburg 3 years, after getting to Joburg and all these experiences, I trusted that gut feel. It's not like I'm sitting here. There are times when I did not go to towards what my gut feels were telling me, and I blamed myself. So there is that gut feel, there is that thing inside you that tells you if you must go for that or don't take a chance. It's either you listen to it or you don't.
I want to explore this later because
Right.
it's an important part of the conversation when we talk about this and on how one becomes an entrepreneur.
Yes.
There's the logic. Should I be leaving the job? Should I be doing this? And Katil says, hey, if this doesn't work out, and there's also I will get back
Which
to
is
it.
more like fear.
Yes, I will get back to what they call
Later.
it to that as we continue. I'm married Emlazi. So my wife was people. So Umarumbela, as it would be, before you leave for Joburg, a family meeting is held.
Okay.
And as the family meeting is held, everybody in those family meetings, I mean, we do it today sometimes when I have to deal with something at my wife is the eldest one, Ekaya, and so sometimes we would have to deal over issues with that. Then I'm intrigued by your resilience. And I also want to know where that comes from. I mean, any other person after their brother had said, well, now Kwapinda Futi and going off and leaving a child, and that's their responsibility. But your sense of responsibility of the family remains. Where do you think that comes from?
Well, that comes from my hero.
Yes.
She is my hero. That's my mother.
Yes.
You know, I think about it today and try to figure out that in today's environment, it's even with the cost of living, of course, that is not the same as that time. Yeah. But we struggle with just 3. I've got 2 children, a boy and a girl.
Yes.
And I'm thinking when I was raising them, it was also not easy. And now you think about a parent, because my mother's story is not just unique to her only. It's the environment that many of us grew and many other people grew up under. But with her, one thing that when we talk about the resilience of having to raise all the children, because we were all almost the same age, and at the same time, seeing this person, the opportunity, it's like there was no opportunity that was passing by and my mother would not spot it. But we could see this as we grow up. It's not like she was like sitting and telling us, but you would see that, come over the weekend. With her, it's work, church, the family, and all the meetings, like you were talking about the meeting as well. And not much time, for her personally to spend. But then at the same time, come weekend, she will get us to go and sell amakwenya. And we will make them. And my big brother, who was then working, in one of the factories in KZN, I would wake up with my mother like 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. We make those vet cook, and when my brother goes for his shift at 6 a.m., I must just make sure that 20 liters of fat cooks, are ready, because he will be taking them and going and selling. But this is the person also, my mother, who would, between that time, she's sewing, aprons. And my sister is taking aprons, is going to sell. And come Sunday morning, we need to go to church. There is no money. I don't even know how she had thought of buying, like, what do you call it, the plastic basins?
The plastic basins.
Yes, those. And there is MaZwane now deciding, after I got into the tune of, this is the lifestyle in this house. By 6, 7, during the week, you wake up in the morning because you're going to school. Over the weekend, it's not like you can sleep until about 8, and you've got to have something to do. And this is the woman who had little time to idle.
Yes.
There was no time to idle in this household. There was always a movement. If someone is not selling, someone is cleaning the house. If it's not cleaning the house, there is maybe a funeral in the villages, and someone must go there. But there was always some activities. I think that kind of as I grow, I watched her. It's not, she wasn't only, her way of teaching was not telling us, was for her to do it. So that was the only thing I knew. If you cannot act, you cannot have time that you don't know what to do with it. Find something. And that helped me when I get to Joburg then, because as I was sitting and still don't have work, and then what do? Then I started making those fat cookies and selling them to neighbors. I started doing exactly what my mom did. So more than anything, yeah, that kind of resilience and that kind of drive, I saw it from her with the determination of making sure that children grow.
And I want to explore this further because I think it's an important lesson that comes from the book. I mean, your son, Senzo, now runs your business, and we will get there.
Yeah.
We're not yet there on that part of the story. But and Senzo couldn't have done any other thing because the same way you were raised, you were made to be aware of the family situation and their contribution. The modern African family tends to shy away from involving kids in what do they call it, in what is going on showing them the reality of what do they call it, of the world that they live in. And to me, I find it quite intriguing that your mother didn't say, you need to do something.
Yeah.
She's saying everybody must put in their bit. And to me, that's interesting. It is. It's and a lot of we don't celebrate this in mothers and how they go about in their own way in teaching those skills. Now that taught you a lot of lessons overall.
Yes.
Which you apply today in a lot of your business ventures and everything else that you do.
Yes, because what I learned from her is that hard work never kills. Hard work doesn't kill anyone. That's one thing that I learned. I think with today's generation, like we're touching on, maybe sometimes I tried not to compensate because what was there to offer my children when they grew up, and they were raised by my mom and my sister. But I see this with the grandchildren, that we begin to compensate and say the struggles that we had or we went through, we don't want them to have the same. But along the way, we end up seeming like raising McDonald's generation that don't know what hard work is. Or folding.
You call it that. It's amazing you call it that. The McDonald's generation.
Yes. But it's a topic for another day. How do we change that? Because at the end of the day, I look at it and say, I was doing what I saw Mom do. And of course, like you were talking about Senzo as well, when he grew up, he knew his mother is in Joburg. And what is your mother doing in Joburg? Your mother is working in Joburg, so you can go to best schools. But even though he came back to stay with me when he was about 8 or 9, but it got so busy that he had to go back to the boarding school. But to come back to what you are saying, it's a case of just making sure that what we do, we know that there are little eyes that are watching and ears that are listening. And they will be mimicking exactly that. Because I mimicked what my mother was doing. And it made me a business person I am today.
I love that. Be the best example for what do they call it, for your kids.
Yes.
So from that ability to be able to look out for opportunities and everything else, ultimately you see this while you get a chance to move to a Tembisa.
Yes.
Maybe what do they call it? The establishment you run comes from the days when you used to live Nabo. Busino Nompi.
Yes.
But there's a building you see coming up as you visit Wallis, the other side of what do they call it, of Midrand.
Yes.
And then one day you say, well, I'm going to go and work there. You always seem to be able to But let's go back to the advice that your mother gave you.
Yes.
There's another advice she gave you before you left.
Yeah.
And we gotta put it down in the words that
Okay.
exactly it was.
Yes, all right.
Yes. What must you do when you get there? Beyond praying, there was something else that she asked you to do.
Diane, opportunities.
Yes.
Look for opportunities. What she said beyond praying was that I'll put it in her words.
Yes.
Sonke sinikezwe amatalente angafani. Find your talent when you get to Joburg and use your talent.
But in the middle of all of that, she said something. She said, some people are educated, some people are talented.
Yes. And when she was saying that, because she knew that amongst all the friends, you know what, mentioning that there is something in those words where my mother was concerned, where when I look at it now, the encouragement, she didn't make me feel like, I can't do my best, because most of my friends were going for academic qualifications. And Mina, I only had matric, and most of my friends did not have children. Mina, I already have a child.
Yes.
So for her to say to me, Pumlapi, in her words, abanye abantu banikezwe bayakwazi ukufunda, abanye abantu akubona bonke abantu. That's how she put it. Not everyone is going to be sort of like have professional qualifications, but some they have got talents, and then use your talent to find what you want, to find what you're good at, and make sure that you work on that and make a life for yourself. That was powerful. It feels more like, because I felt like as a young girl, when you feel like you're down, not out, but you're down comparing yourselves amongst your friends. But to hear a parent just encouraging you and giving you that advice, phumuye phandle uzithola ukuthi ubani, and come back usuphethe uphumlapi omaziyo ukuthi you can be.
But most people never tell their own story. They tell other people's stories. And yes, you were given all this advice and everything else, and a train ticket. That still baffles me today. And a train ticket, and you come out to Johannesburg and you find this opportunity. There's this building that has come up, it's completed, and it's now, and you go and work there.
Yes. At that time, it's all Pretoria Road, because I was already staying with Onombi.
Yes.
Yeah. The thing is, with that build, because maybe let's get to the fact that my eyes was always everywhere.
Going back to your advice, opportunities.
Look for opportunities. My eyes, it's something that I just could not help.
Yes.
You go to bed in the afternoon, you're thinking, what's next for tomorrow? Because there is no way that I'm going to wake up at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
I will need to wake up at 5 o'clock. But when I wake up at 5 o'clock, what am I going to do? So when I saw that opportunity, I had gone to visit my sister, my sister from other family, who was also working as a domestic worker. And then on my way back, then I saw there was a building. And this building, it wasn't finished at the time. And in my mind, I just thought, okay, I must just wait. As I walk past here, the minute they finish this building, I will just go and knock. Just that particular building, And funny, it was on the 7th of January.
Yeah.
That morning when I went there, and the 7th, which is my birthday.
Yeah.
And when I went there and someone opened, and all I said, I'm looking for a job. Say, what kind of a job? Tina, when we grew up, you would say, anything. Mina, anything. I meant in the true sense of it to say, than staying at home doing nothing. Even if I volunteer my time, I know I will gain experience from that than staying at home. So that anything was okay. You know what? Come, we're looking for, leave your numbers, we're looking for a tea lady. Maybe we can give you a call. So that's how I got the job.
Ultimately, the business grows, and you, what do they call it? You are now in line to become a sales lady for insurance and everything else.
Yes. And yeah, because I think it was about 2-3 years in that job, and when they were putting everything together to see, I think everyone, even when I was younger, they could just see the drive and the determination in me, and I would not count hours when I work. That's who I was, and maybe that's who I am even now. with a salary that says, but Mina, I would not, you know. I'm thinking that for that reason, even with that first sort of like formal job in Gautrain, that's when they were looking at me and thinking that, you know what, this person, if she could get a license, and because we want to venture into insurance companies where they were going to go to the mines, and they needed someone who speaks the language, you know, for people to understand when they go to take policies or things like those. I was very excited, you know. But 2 weeks later, boom, the company was closing. And remember, I was earning less than 800 rand, if not 860, I think. Yeah. And what now? Very deflated to say, just when I thought I'm getting a breakthrough now, obviously they gave me 860 rand times 3 as a package. Yes. I was going to sell insurances, but at that time, the company that I was working for, it's not. And there were many reasons for that, because even with the medical aid, everyone else had the medical aid, but except me. Yeah. So everyone had packages and securities, but except me. And just when they wanted to correct that, because it was more like, you know, a girl coming from the township making tea, why would we spend money on medical aid or on, you know, increasing our costs? Somehow, it was still that time, because I remember it was around 93, 94. So it was 93, in fact, just before our first democratic elected government. So there was still that resistance. Yes. And so when I then was given that 860 times 3, I just had to make a decision of what I do with this money that is under 3,000 rand. And I don't have a job now.
I want to go back to something that is important throughout your story. And it's an important lesson to me, because now of lately a lot of people want a lot of things, but they don't want to do this one thing. There's always one thing that everybody saw in you. Yeah. The willingness to learn. Now, beyond you just telling us where that comes from, and also what do they call it, what drives you to want to learn? Because that's what everybody always saw in you. Everybody who gave you an opportunity.
Yes.
That is the one thing they saw in you.
You know, willingness to learn, because anything that you a commitment, it's something that everyone could see in me. And what drove me is in my head, even when I was younger, I had always known that at some point, I didn't know what kind of, not even a business, but at some point, I want to have financial freedom. Yes. I knew that. How was that going to be possible? It was a different story. But I was so clear in my mind that either than providing for my family, which my family was just 2 kids, but it's financial freedom that I wanted. And everyone around me could see that if it means pushing 2 or adding 3 hours today, that when you accumulate that 3 hours, 6 months later will be, you know, days. But I'm gonna be learning something that is going towards that financial freedom. I think even when they talk to me, because sometimes you pick up these things when you talk to a person, even when they talk to me and wanting to know, like when you go for interviews sometimes, where do you want to see yourself in 5 years? It becomes just a question that many ask. But when that person answers and you're sitting and that person is working a year, 2 years, you can see, but she or he's going the direction that he was telling me, or she was telling me that she wants to see herself in 5 years, in this space. So they could see that what I was saying through my mouth and what I was doing was correlating.
MaZwane, this is what intrigues me. These days we are selling books like The Secret and teaching people how to visualize and do all sorts of things. Where did you get that? The idea of, in the simplicity, I'll give you the steps of what do they call it, of doing this. Dr. Joe Vitale says it clearly. He's the master in the space of what do they call it, of the secret of attracting money. He says, first and foremost, know what you want. Secondly, get clear about it. Thirdly, visualize it.
Yes.
And then lastly, don't worry about how it's going to come to you. Now, where had you gotten that from? Because that had driven you throughout, from the time when you were moving from what they call to right up today. It is still something that drives you. Where had you gotten that from? Because it's now a buzz. I mean, everybody is talking about The Secret and all sorts of other things and all of that. Where had you gotten that from?
You know what? It was just something so strong that was inside. Something so strong, either than seeing it around me, but also the environment where you grew up.
Yes.
Yeah, somehow has an influence, But for me, where did that come from? It's a tricky question because I can't actually give you an answer. But it's like when you start something, you know that it's hard work and commitment.
Yes.
But now you wanna continue.
Yes.
Starting, it's just hard work. Everyone is committed. You have an idea, like what you say. You have an idea and you have a vision, how to get there. And with everyone, I must just work hard to make sure it happens. But when you ask where does that come from, it's something so strong that comes from inside. It's something that you cannot explain to anyone your vision, what you see. And once you see that and you know where you want to get to continue, then you will have that drive and determination. If you ask me, that drive that is inside for me was to change the status quo, was knowing that poverty was the hallmark of my youth. And it's a colonial scar that needed and has to be changed. And who is going to change that if we don't? I was having this conversation in my mind in Zulu. In my mind, knowing that if we want to have a financial freedom and you want to change the status quo, someone somewhere must be willing or must be able to make sure that, goes through that path. As we're talking about the path that I'm on, Mina, it was entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And it's not a road easily traveled. Because you're sitting here and you need to be a visionary. And above all, what is exactly do you want to see? Because that drive has to come from that. It has to come from knowing that it's a long road that I'm embarking on. And Mina, my long road was to create a name in food and beverage industry,
Yes.
in hospitality. My vision, even today, I say it many times, but either than legacy, to say what is it that we, as generation of today, going to leave for the next generation. And mine, through COVID, even the time when I was saying to you, I could just sell and go and stay in the farm. But I would sit and say, then what kind of, a generation, when our children talk about this generation, what are they going to say? Because when we look back and we talk about a generation, Winnie-Madikizela Mandela, Adelaide Sisulu, Helen Suzman, we're talking about women that fought the system fearlessly for political freedom. With ours now, if we talk about financial freedom, then what do we mean? Are we going to talk about it and not show them? If the going gets tough, do we give up? And when we give up, what are we saying to that generation? So what continues to drive someone, and where did I get that from? It's one thing that it comes from inside. It's so deep. It's so deep that sometimes you can't even explain it, but it helps you to keep going.
It's fine. I'll wait for my second book on the subject of what drives you. This is the story about MaZwane, and I want to continue with that. Because right there and there, you've got a vision.
Yes.
You've moved into a one room. Kamakuzwa, she finds you standing there looking outside and saying, you say to her, I'm looking at the car I'm going to drive.
Yes.
Yes,
yes.
But and she walks away.
Yes,
you understand?
yes,
and
yes.
that to me intrigues me because
and of course, it's like when she looks through the window, she comes into the house and say, maybe I'm seeing something else. She stands where I'm standing and she doesn't see the car. But it's something I can explain to say, don't worry, it's in my mind. And because it's in my mind, it will happen. Of course, you look like you're crazy.
Yes.
But sometimes visionaries, mostly when they talk or about the vision, it takes, even as a leader, a team behind you to say, we trust this leader with his or her vision and we'll support her, even if we don't see what she sees. But you know what? We will go with her. She's like more like a head. We understand what she's saying. We don't see it, but we'll support her. She's not crazy. like what you were saying with that mama that I was renting. Yeah. How do you rent someone's room and you're paying 300 rand, but you're standing and you're telling that person that, no, I see my car there. Gosh, you're struggling to pay my rent. It's a vision.
It's a vision. And that vision compels you to take the last bit of money you have.
Yes.
And register for a secretarial course.
Yes.
And to me, like that level of
maturity.
Of maturity, and I mean, any other person could have bought themselves a nice, beautiful set of All Stars and all sorts of other things, but you go and say, no, I'm taking this money and I'm doing something.
Because I knew that would have been short term. I could have taken, because I was young, I mean, 3,000 was a lot of money.
Yes, in those days.
Just in those days. But somehow, I knew it's short term. The goal, exactly where my goal was, financial freedom. And if I could take that money and do something that will make me to get, even if it means earning. Today, what I see, young people, even people that hold position, even executives, which I always applaud. I see that when one has got a degree and decide that, you know what, let me go and study part-time and get honors. Because when I got honors, it means I'll be getting more, up to PhD. Yeah. And I would see that and say, okay, this is smart. I'm talking about, but MaZwane that did not have academic qualification, they will work with what we have. But if you have a goal and you know that you need to fund that goal, because if it's a salary and you need to get somewhere, climb the corporate ladder, it's a goal and you know how to get there, but nobody's going to fund that for you. It's your investment that you need to do.
MaZwane, let's talk about delayed gratification. And we speak with it in fluent and fancy English terms.
Yes.
Leader.
Yes. Patience.
And you talking about taking 3,000 rands, paying for a secretarial course instead of, buying the one thing you wanted. And as you say, you love nice things and you always loved them from right in the beginning. Yes. How do we teach that?
Patience.
Yes. How do we teach the young generation of today to work for what they have to work for, stay patient, continue learning, and all the things that have built you?
Well, it's knowing that life is a journey. Whatever, if I were, because I do speak to lots of young people, of course, you delayed gratification means you can't like put, it's not a lotto.
Yes.
I mean, life is not like that. It's knowing what you want and be able to check when do you want to get that. If you know what you want and you know, make an analysis, how long will it take for you to get it? And what is it that you need to do? And once you know what is it that you need to do and you start to embark on that journey of starting, it's a process. Understand the process and be willing to go through it. I would use an example of delayed gratification. If I see someone, I did share that in my book, younger, I knew that I would love to drive big cars one day, you know. But sitting in a taxi, I would look at someone who's driving this big car and try to assess that, how old is this person? Okay, Mina, I'm 25 or 26, I see that. All right, it means if this person is 40, I mean, by 35, I'll be driving this car. So to teach that anything that easy come, easy go, anything that you want, you've got to be patient to receive it. Work hard for it at the same time. And if you don't work hard for it, like what we were talking about with the generation where parents are compensating so much, and at the end of the day, people don't see value in stuff that you did not work hard for it. So patience becomes the key in just making sure that you go through the process. Everything is the process in life.
MaZwane, you should be teaching MBA entrepreneurship classes. When you're beyond Tina, we should actually award you a PhD, man. Whoever the investors that are listening right now, we should actually award you now. But let's go back to a few other things that I want us to. So you get into this job, and you ultimately receive your, what do they call it? But an old friend, and I want to talk about relationships. An old friend then calls and said, you know, MaZwane, when you finish your secretarial course, call me.
Yes, that's where I say a lot. 80%, even in business, I apply that.
Yes.
Keeping relationships, it's very important.
Yes.
80% of the business is relationships. Actually, it's 10% about the product. So the story of the friend, excuse me, it's one thing to go through what I went through. It's another to write the book. But it's also something else to sit and you keep checking at everything that all the experiences that you had. And you begin to think that what was making this person to remember clearly when I was going to finish the secretarial courses. And exactly on the day that I'm finished, she's congratulating me. And yet this person I was working with when I was making tea. And when I got my 3,000, it was a case of, what do I do with this 3,000? Now I'm going for a secretarial courses. But how things happen sometimes, in my case, I would be amazed. What made this friend of mine to go and work for because that was Diane Lang, employment agency. Yeah. Somehow she got a job. Me now, when I was going to Kelly Green Oaks here, and she went and she got a job as an employment agency. But somewhere in her diary, she had my name and she knew exactly when I was going to finish. Then she calls and say, look, I know you finished. I have an interview for you. Please be ready. Wow. And I was not working at all that time. All I was doing, I was continuing to sell, going back to the basics of what I saw when I grew up. And that was, that particular call, I would say that time, that's the call that changed how I viewed, or trajectory of my journey, entrepreneurship journey. It was that call when she called me to say, look, I have something for you.
But you get there, you get a job, and then ultimately they give you another job with a title, but they do realize this is the person we need as a receptionist. But while you are at reception...
And I could have said no. You know, what you are asking me now, because now NAMI as an employer, I do see when people are qualified and young people and, you put an advert, and obviously they would come or they wouldn't. More so, we're operating in the township. Yes. But the story there is that, and one is sitting with this qualification and saying, not a chance, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. That kind of, it's too low for me. Yes. But the story there is that even when I had finished and I have this course now, this certificate, yes. Now I can do something better. And then when I got there, I could see that, okay, it's TKL again. Yeah. Just imagine, I could have said, no, let me continue looking for something else. But that friend called me because somehow she knew that I was not going to
stay there long.
Yes, not even staying that long. I was not going to drop that job because now it looks like it's tea lady again. But she knew that when she puts her foot there on the doorstep, this one will just move. Will be able to do the work, and they will quickly see that she actually deserves far more than that. And it wasn't even 6 months, and exactly that happened.
But MaZwane, let's share. And I think for me that is a part of an important story. I always say to a lot of people, Mina,
yes.
But it's not something that we speak about. There's people speak about an unemployed graduate.
Yes.
And yes, you're a graduate and you think I'm better than that.
Yes.
How do we start to teach the fact that, any opportunity is an opportunity? Get in there and you'll find something else to do. Yes. I mean, that was always your mentality throughout everything that you've done.
Get in there, you'll find something to do, or you will prove yourself. But if you are outside, it's like outside the ring, Yeah.
Yeah.
You may, what am I going to do? But you are inside. So when you get in, you know what your worth is. And the minute you are inside, they will see your worth. Even today, I teach that to young people. I graduate, and this is a big company, but at the same time, now that I'm also an employer, I also understand what it means. But it's another topic, because I do see that when I get qualified people for certain areas that I don't understand, that what sometimes scares employers when they get overqualified people. But at the same time, through your attitude, they can see that, I see this qualification, I called this person, he came in, and the mere fact that this is such a junior position but is willing to come in, that for me says it all. And that's what helped me through my entire journey as an employee. Because just what you're saying now, I got in there with the qualification and I was making tea, and a lot of people would say, why would I do that? But then when you're outside, how are you going to get it?
But you're now at reception. And I mean, any other person would just be seeing people delivering parcels.
Opportunity again.
But you see something else here. I mean, I still want to know what would have happened for you to look at these people and say, but there must be an opportunity here.
You know what? But you can only see that again when you are driven by something. I mean, I've always been driven, by success and succeeding.
Yes.
I've always been. There must be something as a person, when you walk up and down, nobody sees your mind.
Yes.
But in your mind, you know what you want, and that's what you want. It just drives you from inside. And you need the strength from inside to carry on. So for me to see that opportunity, it's because, again, I was driven by the fact that financial freedom and success. Yes. And I knew that success does not come by chance. You set your mind for it, and you have your eyes wide open. If you look at the corner at Busy Corner, I know we will get into that.
Yes.
But there was nothing. And I was driving past, going to my RDP house. But my eyes was always somewhere, was always looking for opportunity, because I wanted to succeed in life. But at reception again, like you say, here I am, I'm sitting at reception and answering calls and taking the parcels. What would make that me, young as I was, wanting the good life, wanting to have, nice time over the weekend, wanting to get home early, to think, oh, that's an opportunity. Ish, I've just bought a car, by the way. Now that I was promoted as a secretary, reception now, yes, just reception, I just want to buy a car, by the way. I've just bought. I had just bought a car. I've just bought a car. And as soon as I have this car, I see that it's not a matter of installment only. It's petrol, it's maintenance. Then what do I do? Then what are other opportunities? Boom, I can turn this into an asset. These people that are delivering, let me check who they work for and see if he can take my car.
But MaZwane, you were so ahead. People are delivering for Take a Lot today. You were delivering for Take a Lot in the 90s. MaZwane.
Someone said to me, with Ushisanyama, who is now a Ushisanyama ecosystem with the car wash and all that. And when I was reading a book and saying, restaurants today, they do that. Where they are restaurants, then they must be car wash and saying, but MaZwane, you were way ahead of your time.
No, you're the forever disruptor. You were already so ahead of your time. It's just unbelievable. But in between all of that, you see this advert.
Yes.
For a container and this and that and everything else.
Yes, in between all that, you're right. In between, let's count in between what? In between being full-time employed,
yes,
working as a waitress,
yes,
and having that car that was delivering, computer parts.
Yes.
In between the three,
holding down 3 jobs
already.
And you want to add the 4th problem? No. The story must be told properly. I think people should. There is more in this book, and more relevant, and I think today's terms in, people who have lost their jobs due to COVID, people who they've bought cars, the cars are sitting around, and they don't know what to do with them, but the willingness to then say, but I can do something here. It's an important story, and I think the book should, even if you don't read for any other thing, just that period when you're working as a receptionist, working at the tent, and delivering parcels, and then you go
back to the taxi.
Yes.
When the driver delivers.
You were, what do they call it? You were a taxi queen at some point in time.
Yes.
And then eventually you buy a venture and.
And it's male industries, if you come to think about it.
And then you meet up with this incredible opportunity.
Yes, because what has been driving you, why after all the 3 jobs, the income, let's call it income. I already had 3 income, and the income was enough for me to live in a beautiful house, get a better car, my children, go to boarding school and be able to pay for colleges. I mean, ordinarily, and for a woman for that matter, that was enough.
No, it's not even got anything to do with a woman. Ordinarily, anybody would settle at that point in time.
Yes. More, Why would you go for taxes now? Why would you? These are the questions that I get a lot to come to think about it. I do get people. But ordinarily, MaZwane, you were fine. What made you continue with that? Because the income was good. And yes, again, the mind knowing that I am driven to succeed. And somehow that success and financial freedom, I know what I have right now is not going to give me that. Yes, the 3 jobs, yes, the income is good, but it's not going to give me where I want to see myself. And I know the value that I'm going to add when I get there as a woman. When I say a face of success, I say that a lot changes. The look and the feel, even the language of success, it changes. And I see, even back then, representing those young girls that I left in KZN, seeing my mother who raised me, those women that she left in the rural areas, that there must be a story. Even I didn't know then that I would ever write a book. But for me, it was a case of going back and looking at my mother, looking at myself, and knowing that with the 3 jobs that I have now, enough for a comfortable life. But was it just a comfortable life that I wanted or change?
MaZwane, your confidence is intoxicating. It must be bottled and sold for free somewhere, or given away for free. You walk into the Teizira brothers' offices, and you say, "I don't have the money you want, but I am here. I have the energy and everything else."
I have the energy and
sold them.
I have the energy and the drive.
That's incredible. You just walk in and say, "I know you want 35,000 rands, but you had how much at that point in time?"
5,000 rand, actually. I had 5,000 rand, to be honest, yeah.
But you muster up the courage to offer them something else.
And yes, and that's something else that I'm offering them. I was just walking around the street of Tembisa,
yes,
trying to find above these 3 jobs that were the 3 income, trying to find, okay, to get where I want this, comfort, happy with it, but it's not going to take me there. What is going to take me there is to now have a business that I would run and manage and grow. That's when I saw the container, the meeting place container, which was more like the convenient shop and the convenient butchery. And I looked at it, I thought, voila, this could work for me. But I had already gone to, other people that were owning butcheries before I even saw the container. And just to find out, how do you do this? How does this kind of business run? I had already gone to people who own filling stations when I contracted my car for a delivery service, because I knew that I didn't have enough. Oh no, let's story. It's you know what happened.
Yes.
Having to go to Omashonisa.
Yes.
So, but when I got Texera Brothers, for them, I thought to myself, I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to talk to them. I only have 5,000 rand, but let me hear what they say. That time, I did not even know the value of the container. I thought 5,000 rand is not bad.
Yeah.
And maybe it will be about 10 or 12 or 15.
Also, you didn't even have a plan for
how much was it?
Okay.
Because I gave them a phone call to say, I want to meet you.
Yes.
But in my pocket, I had 5,000 rand. But I want to meet you. I want to talk to you and understand, how do you supply this? How, what are terms? And that's when I got there, they told actually a container with all the equipment is actually 35,000 rand. So I had to negotiate terms.
No.
And I walked in there in my high heels because I was from work, of course.
Yes.
Working nicely in offices with aircons. And, Texera Brothers looked at me and thought, oh, is this girl in high heels going to make it in the township under the sun?
But your energy and drive has them buy into your plan. You promise them you'll pay them 2,500 ransom. I don't know whether it was a month or on
it was a month. It was a rental, yes. And I promised them that they said they had 1 or 2, but they said we do have. And I said, I have 5,000 rand.
You eventually have the container, it starts running properly. But then at some point in time, you realize, I'm not making money here. What's going on?
Yes.
Those are the hard lessons that we never talk about in entrepreneurship.
Yes. When you feel like you're now hitting the wall, you don't know what to do. And that's when I enjoy mentoring other young people that want to get into business, because I understand how much that part is needed in business. Because there are times when you'll feel down. And for me, it seemed like the income that I was getting, from the other 3 hustling, other 2, because 1 was full-time and then the 2 was hustling. It seems like that money now, I was putting it in paying the containers and the stock as well. And I was not getting what's happening. So they became mentors. even still today, we still talk. And, you know, they look at me and say, MaZwane, yeah, out of many people that had containers, but you particularly just made success out of it.
Incredible, you don't stop. Second container. A lot of people would have been, this thing is not making that much money, I give up. But you call them mentor, they, you know, eventually the problem gets, you know, you understand where it is, but you make enough to then go for a second container.
Yes, yes. And that second container, it's where the business corner is. Yeah, the business corner in Gauteng. Because there, I remember I was staying in an RDP house.
Yes.
And from where the first container was, I would be driving home.
Yes.
But again, looking for opportunities wherever. I was never just, even today, just walking, you know, whenever, I don't know how to put this. You know, when it's something that you just can't help it.
Yes.
When there are times that you feel, can I just rest for a change and just forget about looking for opportunities and let me go away on holiday? But still, when you are on holiday, you still see opportunities, you know. And with that one in particular, I was like going home and thinking that, you know what, I am in Ivory Park here. And I stay, the difference between the Ivory Park and the Ebony Park, Ebony Park was better established, and the Ivory Park was, at the time, informal
dwellings. Yes.
Informal dwellings.
Yes.
So, Mina, because I was going to where I was staying in Ebony Park, where, you know, there were bonded houses there, there was a mix. And I would see people that are coming from Ebony Park, they would go to Ivory Park to buy meat because of the quality. Those are some of the lessons that I learned as well, because of the quality. To say, this person has actually walked from this far to get here. And as MaZwane is driving, going home, and thinking that I must bring this closer to them, you know. And then there is this corner. I could do something here in this corner. Then I went to Texera Brothers to say, can I have another container? And it was like, what now?
MaZwane, first tracking the story. Hannah says you're the ultimate disruptor.
Yes.
Today, we're talking about businesses not offering products, but offering experiences.
Yes.
You were there in the 90s. Now, yes, let's talk about experience as a person, what you learn from various jobs. Because working at the tent, that's where the idea starts building up. What was driving you so much beyond, you know, even longing for a place that you don't even know to a great degree, Gautrain, you know, and all of that, but, you know, longing for home and all of that. What was driving that? There's such a strong belief that stayed in you and say, but I want to create this.
The driver for me, because I was working in a restaurant.
Yes.
And I could see that now selling pap and fleece, which was what the container was intended for, that is bringing the income. But that's not enough for me. And I started to, it's like you take notes, let's just talk. It's like you take notes, and every evening, there is something about the mind of an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That's why people ask if entrepreneurs are made up or born sometimes.
Yes.
There is something, it's like you're taking notes to say, when I was working at the tent, because anything that you come across or the journey in life, this is what I believe in, nothing goes to waste, and all the experiences, somewhere down the line you're going to use them, or somewhere down the line it's going to help you to make a decision, the experiences that you've had in life.
Yes.
That's how it is. So for me, at the tent, when I saw that people were, it was not just food that was being sold there, you know, the belly dancers,
Yes.
you know, and all that. And I had this jealousy inside to say, hey, we are in Africa and South Africa, and in food and beverage, do we have a product that celebrates our culture? No. And I can turn this into an experience now, not just food, not just pap and place, something that will talk to our African culture, lifestyle, and identity. How am I going to do that? So for me, I was looking at the fact that I began. Now, remember, now that I was able to move away from where I was staying in an RTP house and go into affluent suburbs, I was able to change the small Anyana car that I was driving. Now I'm driving a bigger car. Life is now comfortable.
Yes.
Yeah, so again, I get to a point where I say, is this enough? Is this where I want it to be?
Yeah.
And then I go back to the vision. I go back in saying, when I actually started, what is it that I wanted?
What you were seeking to do.
What I was seeking to do. And to continue and to get to your goal, then in your mind, you know that, okay, it's that patience that we're talking about, it's consistency that you need to get there. It's not easy. And then I was thinking, then going back to the drawing board. By the way, why did I do this? Oh, yes, I wanted the financial freedom. I wanted the success. And now, with this, in food and beverage, we can actually create a legacy. We can actually create something that people can identify with. And that will talk to our lifestyle. There are pizzas, there are Chinese restaurants, but there is nothing that talks to us. Except it can't just be food for me. I thought it can't just be food. It can't just be ipap and place. It must be an experience. And how then do I create that experience? And then I was sitting and thinking, oh, Gauteng, it's actually a melting pot for cultural diversity. May become the 24th of September, which is a Heritage Day. Formerly known as King Shaka Zulu's Day, because that day was celebrated, so it's still celebrated in KZN. Now I went back to my roots, and I thought, because Gauteng it's a melting pot for cultural diversity, maybe let me start this experience by introducing this, which then became an oxygen of keeping Mbizo Shisanyama alive.
But you commit beyond that. You commit beyond that. Because, with you, even when I was reading the book, I think, but is there a little bit more? But then you just run ahead, and now I found myself, like, as I said, I went through the book in 24 hours because I couldn't just put it down. It was it was what happened next. Now,
committing, yes, I know.
Yes.
So letting the house go, feeling like starting afresh again, yes.
No, but you took exceptional risk. You get to a point where you look at everything and saying, first you go to Cape Town, and you buy a book by John Maxwell. And there's a quote there. I can repeat it, but I want you.
Yeah, winners know what to give up in order to get what they want.
That's intriguing there.
Yes, winners know
what to give up so that they can get what they want.
Yes.
The plane takes off, but this quote is not. I don't think you even read the book. The quote was just, running at the back of your head.
Yes. In fact, reading that book on my way to Cape Town, I finished it because I was going for a holiday. And remember, Mina, in the first 10 years, I did not have more than solid 10 days in the first 10 years of the business. Solid 10 days to myself. Even when I was going to Cape Town, I made sure that because I understand the business I'm in, it was just one weekend. Thursday, let me go. And at least first 5 years, that was the first time taking 7 days at least, coming back the following day on Thursday. But then, because I read books, I was getting inspirational books, got to the airport, saw this one, John Maxwell. I thought, let me just write it up, buy this book. Read the first chapter, got into the plane. The last chapter on my way back, then I finished it. By the time I landed, I had finished the book. But just that line that says, winners know what to give up. Because at some point, there are sacrifices that you need to make. It's not going to be smooth. There is, something that you're gonna lose. And in pursuit, for a dream, it's one thing to be relentless. You can be relentless, but what are you investing? That's when I thought, you know what? And that RDP house, remember, I had extended it.
Yes.
It was now a beautiful 2-bedroom house.
Yes.
In fact, it was 3-bedroom house, and beautiful fence. You go inside. It's MaZwane's house.
Yes, with a beautiful garden.
With a beautiful garden, yes. And I thought, okay, what do I do now? Because containers alone are not going to give me the kind of financial freedom that I want or the success that I want. That's when I made a decision to say, all I have as an asset right now, because operating from the containers on the side of the road, it felt like I was selling fat cookies still. And then I gave up that house game. What happened? Maybe let me not go into that.
And ultimately, you get the 3 sites.
Yes.
And you go to the banks and you're looking for money, but nobody's willing to invest in this big vision.
Yeah.
But you spend the next 8 months to be exact.
Yes.
Taking your own money and just replowing it back into the structure that everybody knows now.
Yes. And the sad part is that when I was going to the banks at the time, think about it. When I get these things, these are my experiences, but now I have time to sit and look at them and say, why did they make that decision? But looking back, I would say, you know what? I was coming with something that they had not heard of. No. I was coming with Ushisanyama. And I must now try and explain what is it with Ushisanyama.
Yes.
And sometimes it's sad when I do see that there are businesses that have been around less than 20 years, but have managed to franchise them quickly than us with Ushisanyama.
Yes.
But what was the reason for that? Because I was just packaging this thing. But you go to the bank and you tell them about that, they say, oh, wait a minute. What is she talking about? Because ideally, come for a franchise. It's something that has already been tried and tested. And now you want to use our money to try your concept? Not so sure about that. Now then, that 8 months where I have to use the money. Remember, at the time we had two, in Ivory Park and now in Ebony Park. But that time, Ushisanyama was not as infiltrated as it is now. It was still new. Even people you were talking earlier about your grandmother in the township, even people after the democratic government, even people that were staying in affluent suburbs, they would want to go back to the township because they would miss that kind of lifestyle, something that reminds you of home. But then when you're sitting at the containers, there is a car wash here. It's a case of, okay, I was at home, I was ekasi. There is a vibe and the vibrancy of ekasi, and you go back. Now, with them putting money into a concept that they are not sure of, and remember, Pela, I commercialized it and I created the entire subsector of Ushisanyama.
Yes.
The subsector in food and beverage industry. But finally, just when I was about to finish, and then the bank came through for me. Because they could see that this is tsunami, this person is unstoppable.
Then the day comes for you to open in Ushisanyama.
Yes.
The dream is real.
Yep.
You're now standing there.
Yes.
The day before it opens, you break down and cry.
Yes.
But you're crying tears of joy. Now let's talk about gratitude. And gratitude is important in this whole journey.
Yeah.
You've always been grateful for all the little things that you have. You've always been the kind of person that reflects. And therefore, gratitude comes easy when you reflect.
Yes.
How much of everything that you see today that you have comes from you being able to say, Ngiyabonga uNkulunkulu?
In terms of percentage, if you say how much, almost everything, starting from the time I was born, everything, even in business, the journey that I've been through makes me realize that each and every day, we just have to be grateful. I just have to be grateful. Because, like you say, I reflect. Only a matric.
Yes.
You have a child.
Mm-hmm.
You're coming into the city. You find work. You start something. You end up creating a hub somewhere in the township. You end up creating building a name for yourself. You empower others. They are able to take their children they were able to take their children to school. They were able to buy cars, build families, build houses for themselves as well. That's gratitude, and that's saying thank you, Lord. Because instead of me having this whole bread, let me share with others and understanding the community around you. Things like chakalaka, dumpling along the journey, to say, I can't do this on my own. I have to be able to pull other women with me. And you look back and you say, thank you, Lord.
Yes.
That's when I feel like that most times, that's the kind of song that I think of. It's just celebration.
But MaZwane, in the midst of all starting businesses and all sorts of other things, you do something interesting. You give back on something that was done for you when you moved to Johannesburg.
Oh.
You take a young girl and you bring her up as yours.
Yeah.
That's incredible, Dad, because a lot of people would have gone, well, I'm trying to hustle and all that, but not MaZwane. MaZwane goes there, no, but things are coming all right, and I've brought Senzo here, and I need to, what do they call it? You take on another child.
Yes. 2-year-old. She was 2 years old, and same thing that happened, that was done by my sister.
Yes.
When she took Senzo at 6 months, I am a grandmother, and my granddaughter is 10 months.
Yeah.
It's now 10 months. And each time I look at my granddaughter, I see that this is how young Senzo was when I left him at home with my sister to raise this child. And when I got home and I saw my cousin with that child who was 2 years old, but still going to school, and I thought to myself, I know exactly how it's like when you trying something for yourself, and worse for her, she was still going to school but having a child to feed. How can I be of help? But not even about help. With that particular child, I just felt in love with her. The day I lay my eyes on her, I just loved the child. But in me, there was something that was saying, what they did to me, let me do that to her as well, so she can continue and see how best she can build her life again. I love her to bits. I love her like my own daughter.
Incredible story. But I want to go to...
She's 25 now.
You know what? It's an amazing, amazing story. So to me, there are things that tripped you up along the way. Now you now know the code. Only winners know what to give up for them to go to the next chapter.
Yes.
And you're now trying to legitimize the business. And it's some things that you feel very strongly about. The issue of, first let's talk about how important it is for somebody to have property, own a house, own land, own, something. But then, and its role in the township economy.
Yeah.
That first RDP house you had.
Yeah, that first RDP house, it's amazing that how many times I used that house, as a collateral. Eh?
But you had it.
But I had it. And that touched on, land ownership,
Yes.
land as an asset,
Yes.
and you're trying to build a business, you go into private sector, you have nothing except the money that you're putting in.
Yes.
And these are lessons that I learned the hard way. To say, even though we want to give you the money, but what is it that you've got that we can hold, as we can use as a security? The mere fact that I got that RDP house when I was about 27, 28 years, renovated it, the value went up. Then I was able to take that RDP, to use that RDP as a collateral. So that helped me, because like I say, I think I've used it 3 times as I wanted to grow the business. Because the first person, but the book says that the first person that I gave it to, so that I can swap and get a proper back, moving back to the RTP, sold it back to me.
Yes.
Now I wanted to, to build the business even better, and they wanted the collateral again, and I used the same RTP house. First, I took, this is clear, first, I swapped it,
Yes.
because it was already a big house, with someone who was staying in an RTP house. And then later, this person wanted to go somewhere else,
Yes.
and came back to me to say, can you buy this house?
Yes.
That my RTP house that I renovated. Then I bought it back. But now, again, I needed money for the business to grow. Then I took the title deed to the bank, which means land ownership plays such an important role in terms of empowerment.
Yes.
In terms of whether the empowerment that you talk about is financial empowerment, or knowing that the comfort of having a property and the title deed that you own. Mina, I used that as a security many times.
That's incredible, because a lot of people look at those houses and they don't see value in them. But you were able to see value in them.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. But continuing on, you've now in your later years become more of an activist in developing young minds and developing entrepreneurship. But there's a thing that you talk about quite heavily in terms of the enabling environment.
Yes.
In terms of the laws that are created by us, as what do they call it, as officials in government and in place. Let's talk about the liquor license and the challenges of that.
You know, when I think of illegal license, I don't know how many times I've said this when I'm given a platform to talk about it, like you are giving me a platform now, and I'm going to repeat it.
Yes.
Were it not for 2003, where there was a proclamation act signed, allowing businesses in the township that were operating in that space, in food and beverage space, liquor space, to at least be given 18 months window period.
Yes.
And they got those temporary licenses whilst they are understanding what do you need, the process, of applying for that was temporal, but a permanent and proper legal licenses. That was the Department of Economic Development
Yes.
in 2003.
Yes.
And that time it was Paul Mashatile who was the MEC.
Yes.
Just sometimes it's not the money that people want, especially in the township. It's enabling environment and the policy change that some people like MaZwane back then would just grab that and run with it. Were it not be for that, I don't think today we would be talking about the industry as a whole of Ushisanyama. That we then managed to disrupt the entire sector of food and beverage. Because you go all over now, when you see restaurant, you will find Ipapa.
Yes.
Because because we got an opportunity. I got an opportunity to commercialize that. So that enabling environment, that is what we talk about sometimes. Not everyone is give me sort of like the money or fund me. Some people are in a position to say, depending what you're doing. But when we talk about township economy, just that environment, just making sure, the infrastructure is correct. It's there. And we become the bridge between the first and the second economy.
Yes.
And I call the first economy because I'm talking about your affluent suburbs and us. And in affluent suburbs and the businesses around there, there are investors that want to come into the township. But then, Tina, that have already been in the township for so many years, we become that bridge. But they too can only come in when the environment is enabling. And by enabling environment, you talk about all town planning. Was this town designed for those kind of businesses, or they were just designed so that people can stay at home? I mean, so that people can go to work and come back in the afternoon, then wake up in the morning. Yeah. So it's beginning to change all that, then allows people to run formal businesses and moving from informal trading.
MaZwane, me and you can talk until the cows come home. I need to check on what they got on our. But before we go there, I want to talk about leadership.
Yes.
A lot of things that you've learned from your mother. There's the story you tell of you were supposed to wake up and make a MaQueen.
Yes.
And you recognize that, hey, I have not put my bid in.
Yeah.
But your mother says to you, no, I've already sang for Tumezela Mafuta. Now you carry that with you today. And in the way you run your businesses, that is an important issue. Yes. Let's talk a little bit about that as I look at the questions that have come in from the people. So, yes, I'm listening, MaZwane.
Yeah. I think leadership is all about, let me talk about leadership in today's language, other than what I was doing when I started. It's all about a vision. A leader has to be a visionary. Yes. A crystal clear vision. And you have the team and the people that believe in you, like me now. Fortunately, what I have, even people that were working for me, even in senior position today, the family as well. But at the same time, as a leader, for me, I would say it's also important to know when am I expected to go to the trenches with the people if there is a need, because then I'll have to lead by example. Yes. That's how I've been running my business for all this time.
But in addition to that, our values as a company is leadership,
yes,
learning, and we've spoken about learning.
Yes.
Excellence.
Yes.
And you talk about how going to the trenches is the manner in which you've inculcated the sense of pride in serving people.
Yes, yes.
Rita was talking about how she was quite surprised to be served by you personally when she came to Imbizo Shisanya. Now, and there's a leadership lesson here, which is important. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yes, yes. You show by, like what my mother do. Yes. Example. You leading the people, and you want everyone to know how you want this done. Either it's written down and assist, yes, or it's not written down, but then you have to show that I'm not expecting to do what I don't know from where. And it's depending which industry you are in. In mine, it was more in leadership to say, because I know what I'm expecting of you, let me show you how to do it. And that kind of leadership would then say to people that are working for you, we are in this together, and this is a person that has got this vision. But for us to carry her vision forward, she remains in front, and we all behind to assist to achieve that goal. So for me, the leadership, it's more about being also there for people, being also there to listen, being also there when they need to talk to you, even about their own personal stuff, because sometimes they would get to work and they have their own personal stuff. Just to give that 2 or 3 minutes, it then gives them that sense of ownership, that sense of pride. Either it's in your business or it's in your company.
Yes. Now, MaZwane, there's something else that you do. You know, we have 4 values, and I'm going to get to the last one as we conclude. But beyond that, there's a lot of caring that you bring. Your business has allowed you to be able to do more things.
Yes, yes.
And you talk quite a lot about it in the book, about how, you know, not only being part of the community and creating jobs, but you go beyond that. Let's talk a little bit about that before I get to the question that has come through.
Okay, yes. You know, that's what drove me to start MaZwane Foundation.
Yes.
Because as a business person in the township, as a leader in the township, young people look up to you. And when some community, they've got issues, you know, this is a lot that many know when you are in the township. Yeah. When they need to bury someone and there is no money, and there is that business, there is that person who is more like a mother. Yes. Let's see if we can go to that person and she'll be able to assist us. So that caring part comes from knowing that, you know what, there is Wi-Fi and there are school children, and you wonder what they are doing here, and you realize that it's because, you know, maybe they are writing exams and they don't have access to that at home. Yes. And that nurturing becomes natural to me, and maybe many other women will agree with me, to say, as you go building your business, you've got to care for people around you as well. And more than anything, if it's young people and young women, you look at them and you say, who guided me, who mentored me, and what kind of a leader am I going to be, or even a mother that am I going to be when you talk about caring. But how is the next generation going to see me? It's more about becoming a person that our daughters, or being a mother that our daughters would want it to become. Yes.
MaZwane, that leads neatly into what do they call the question that has come through here. It says, you know, when setting up in the township, I would imagine the amount of complaints that would come from neighbors and all of that, because at some point in time, then the area behind Busy Corner started formalizing as a residential areas. But you don't have that problem because of what you've just explained now.
Yeah.
That they don't see you as a problem. They see you more as an empowerer of their community.
Yes.
More than anything else.
Yes, because you don't leave them behind. Then they too look forward to the growth of that business. Obviously, it is ushisanyama. But how then do you bring them in? And you don't seem like someone who's coming there just to make money and then go, and you don't care about their needs. For as long as you always, it's a community. That's how we were raised. It takes, you know, to bring a child, it takes a community, a village. Yeah, so I do the same thing in terms of empowerment.
Continuing on with leadership. You now talk about listening to your children. Usenzo has taken the order they call it. The business is now redirecting it. That's an incredible. I mean, you say you're a great mother now, but I still think you are the ultimate disruptor. You now talk about, you know, having salads when originally you were talking about. Now, you're always looking out for trends. Is it ever going to stop, MaZwane? Or you'll just continue until the wheels fall off?
In fact, Susenzo was asking me that question when we talk about him. Yeah. You know, that's the thing with passion. Whatever you do, if also is driven by passion, there is no time when you say, I stop, but I mean, how will you ever stop? How I do, through MaZwane Foundation, I'm beginning to teach about, there is the book, but also when I'm giving platforms to come and talk to people, especially young people that want to get to business, I'm not sitting and saying, okay, now Senzo take over, and now, you know what, I'm okay, let me raise my granddaughter.
Yes.
So will I stop? Maybe let me be precise with that answer. Ish. I'm not sure.
It's
Not
gonna be
anytime soon.
difficult.
Not anytime
It's
soon.
going to be difficult.
Yeah.
But the lifestyle that you were hoping for, you now have. And you now talk about something that's important. There's a need for an entrepreneur to look after themselves.
Yes. Yes.
And in this time of your life, you're spending a lot of time doing exactly that. Is there a world in which they're looking after yourself, being there for the family, being able to spend time cooking for the family, does exist much sooner in this journey?
Well, the honest truth is that I was beginning to do that before COVID.
Okay.
And COVID hit.
Okay.
And when COVID hit, now you have to sort of like going back to the trenches,
Yes.
knowing that our industry, food and beverage, has been the hardest hit. But having a granddaughter now, I do try my best to make sure that, you know, I do have the time to spend with him. Also to look after myself. But unfortunately, it's not like there are not any other businesses that I am in. You know, in the middle of the pandemic, we opened another Shisanyama at the Mall of Tembisa,
Yes.
the iconic one,
Yes.
something that I was always dreaming about, a 3-floor one. So will I ever rest? That's another question. Which is why I said I'm not going to be able to answer anytime soon.
You're not going to be able to answer
Yes,
that
yes,
anytime
yes.
soon.
And maybe until the actual, I don't think I will rest though. Let me answer that one. Because I'm talking about legacy here.
Yes.
And when you talk about legacy, you don't rest.
Hi, MaZwane. This required 3 hours, but it's one of the that's all I have in
Yeah.
terms of. But you've created jobs, and you're continuing to create jobs
Yes.
in the community, and it's something you are deeply passionate about. You know the role of the township economy, and deregulating it much more than anything else.
Yes.
Where are we? Where do you think we are today in terms of getting somewhere? I mean, the legendary Paul Mashatile, who was a big patron of the Gautrain.
Yes.
He was the man at the helm when the system was built. You know, the bits he put in as the catalyst have worked out, and they are working out. But now we have the township economy bill.
Yeah.
Do you think we're doing enough?
I was about to mention that one, that, you know, I think we are. When I look at it, I think we are. With this township economic development bill,
Yes.
it's gonna unlock again lots of opportunities.
Yes.
It's gonna go back to the businesses that were started by our mothers, and they've passed on. And with this township bill, it's also looking at land issues, where the land ownership, we're going to be getting leases that are longer now than what usually we had. With this township bill, it's going to allow people to be able to trade, even though in spaces that are demarcated. You know, I think it's changing. And what I like with the township bill that has been signed, I think Premier signed it on the 29th of April. Yeah. What I like about it, and I did mention this in some spaces where I was invited, and I said, when I look at it, and this is the beautiful part for me, all the struggles that we went through, Tina, the first people that, you know, SMA, they started, the trailblazers, you know, that started those businesses, you know, and then came up with SMMEs, the name SMMEs, because those were 1997. Yes. And we had to learn a lot along the way. There was lots of bureaucracy. You know, we hit the walls somewhere, even with the licenses that we were talking about. If I could tell you the queues that were there, when everyone had announced on radio that you can now get temporal licenses. So I look at it and I see that a lot of stuff that we were struggling with building the township economy has been addressed. So for me, it was exciting to see that, because sometimes we would sit and think that you know what struggles that we go through, the next generation can't be going through, especially in the township. But when you see the township bill that has been signed, it then says to you, okay, there is a way forward.
There is hope.
It says to you, yes, there is hope for whoever sees an opportunity in the township, because all the barriers that we were that we had to go through, most of them have been addressed.
I am what do they call it? I am forever intrigued by the story of MaZwane. I believe we should tell it more and over and over. I believe that, what do they call it? That heroes don't wear capes. Heroes wear a duke, and they might even not have a fancy qualification, and what do they call it? It is those who blaze the trails. It is those who have pushed us. I mean, I found myself with a tear or two reading the book. And beyond that, MaZwane, as we look forward to the other book that you're going to write for us, the one on the ins and outs of what do they call it, of actually running a business and,
Yes.
and having a, what do they call it, having a conversation on that part. To me, I did warn you. How do we build more MaZwanes? I know the MaZwane Foundation is there, and it's there to be able to create the, what do they call it? How do we build more? Because as we always speak about it, this nation would not stand as it stands if it wasn't for mothers.
Yes, yes.
How do we build more MaZwanes?
I believe that more MaZwanes can be built by having more role models, more mothers that are role models, and more mothers that show resilience. So can I try that? That says utshwara tsipa ka bogareng. Yes. Mothers that, if we were to be mothers that our daughters would want to become,
Yes.
not by telling them what to do all the time, but by showing them how it's done. I believe that's when more MaZwanes can be multiplied.
MaZwane, with a minute left, which I also no more have, all that's left for me to do is, one, to thank you. To thank you for not only giving up on the dream and being yourself and being as genuine as you are, but also to thank you for making the time to share with us. And as it's normally what do they call the practice at this time, I need to pay the bill.
Yes.
We would like to thank our the publishers, Tracy, Morgan Publishers, and everybody who's made this whole process easy for us to do. The team in the office from knowledge management, the team from marketing that have gone out of their way to market all of this. Our CEO who's always been part of what do they call it, of these processes and giving us a chance to do this. And everybody who's always listening to us and that will listen to us over and over again. From me, Slogolo Samatebele, Lemapulana, thank you, MaZwane.
Ubonga mina kakhulu for i-platform eninginikeze yona ukwazi ukushare istory sami to everyone at Gautrain, e-books as well.
Thank you.